What is up, guys? It is the Blue Bloods here, back with another FCS team preview. And you already know who I had to bring in for this Alabama A&M preview, man. He's a busy
Right.
guy, and he's been doing
Please,
he's
how's good
been doing
to you?
big things out there, man. My guy Chauncey is here with us, man. Let the people know what you've been up to, man, and what you got coming this season.
Well, man, oh man. I mean, busy. Trying to keep up with you, honestly. It's finally good to see you at Swag Media Day in person, of course, breaking bread and passing along things we learned during that time. That was awesome, special moment there for sure. And then, just been interning and just getting to the grind of things, working at a local news station, WHNT 19, and then also transitioning now, where I just got back and we had to postpone a little bit there on our earlier episode we were going to do because I was coming back from Los Angeles working training camp and preseason, of course, with the Super Bowl champs, Los Angeles Rams.
How was that experience, man? Before we get into Alabama A&M, what was that like?
Oh my goodness, man! It's like it's once in a lifetime, And the opportunity came thanks to the Black Sports Business Symposium powered by ESPN with Greg and Kevin DeMoss. They did a really good job with that opportunity, bringing so many people together that are all in for the love and the culture of sports and are Black and brown people in sports, and seeing so many people, students and professionals, connect with each other like that was something I've never saw a day in my life. And I was just lucky and blessed to have opportunity to go to Los Angeles with training camp, thanks to Mr. Demoff, and just be a part of that Ram family and Ramley, as they like to say, and just learn so much from guys like JB Long and Maurice Jones-Drew, Erica Tamposi, and the rest of the crew there at the content team. It truly gives you that behind the curtain look of how a Super Bowl champion team is. And that's not just the team, but the organization as a whole, from Kevin, the organization from a football standpoint and an operation standpoint just coincide together so great, so amazing, man, because the from the leadership standpoint, everyone's on the same page. Well, I didn't get a chance to meet Steve, but Stan, I'm sorry, but I did get a chance. Me and Kevin are really close, and I love Kevin to death. That's my guy now. Just watching him as a leader mirroring Les Snead, just on the same page, just like mirrors. Honestly, like they demand greatness. They're going to have a great time. They are people persons for sure. And just being able to take in so much and learn from them the way I did was really something special, and it was a highlight in my career so far for sure.
Hey man, congratulations again, man. I know we already talked
Thank
about it,
you.
but
Yeah,
that's a big deal, and I know that's only the first step for you, man. And then you got a
I
lot of things
appreciate it, man.
coming.
Thank you.
But I don't like to waste any time on on these
Oh,
shows, man. And we know the first question that's coming. It's the
mm-hmm.
question that surrounds this team going into 2022. Who is going to be the guy to replace Akil Glass at the quarterback spot for Alabama A&M this season?
Well, I think it's been a really good race. I think it's always been a two-man race since the moment Aquil threw his last pass for the Bulldogs this past season between Xavier and Quincy. And, there's been a couple people, whether it was Jaron Williams, we spoke on him during spring ball, and it looked like he was going to be the front runner. And then injuries derailed, and unfortunately, he retired. And then it became a two-man race again between Quincy and X. And I kind of hinted at X during spring ball. I didn't want to spoil it for anyone to say, hey, I get it. It's going to be a Q and a Jaren race, but keep your eye on that third guy. And that was something I had mentioned earlier. And lo and behold, there was X. X has shown up. X has been a really hardworking guy from what I've heard, and the coaches have raved about his work ethic, but they've also raved about Quincy's work ethic, and they've raved about how he leads the team and how he leads the offense out there and keeps a poised pocket there. And they also like love the maturity he brings to the offense. And I saw in practices lately he's been taking a lot of first snaps. And I think that's where they're going to start to lean on more right now is just the experience versus the inexperience. And they're going to give Quincy the best shot. I think Coach Maynard has always said, and he's been consistent with it, that he's going to let the best man win. And I think right now, I don't think that the race is far broken. I don't think there's too much of a huge lead between one or the other, but I do think right now, as of right now, on Thursday, I'll be expecting head coach Connell Maynard to expect Quincy Casey to be the starting quarterback.
How much do you think they rotate over these first 2 weeks? They got UAB and they have Troy. Do you expect both X and Quincy to take a significant amount of snaps, or do you see it being a
I
more,
wouldn't be
you know,
surprised.
okay?
Yeah,
I was wondering because I know Musa and McKay were supposed to, but Musa went out there and really
he did
balled
his
out
thing, right?
yeah, really balled out. So I think Quincy would probably have to do a similar thing, but I'm going to be interested to see, man. This Thursday is going to tell a lot about that QB race and how
A
much
lot.
I would say how much room each guy has to grow into the role and make mistakes. Because I think if you make one mistake and they pull you, you could really tell how close that race was. That they're like, okay, well, let's see what this guy does in this situation. Is he going to make the same mistake? And that's a big question mark for me.
Then it's also going to be a question mark about it's going to be a tell sign who can do what when they have less. Of course, we'll have Gary, and I think the running back room is the strongest it's been since Gary was a freshman, joined alongside there with Bentley. That running back room there was tremendous, and now they have a great running back group. They're looking good right now. They got a lot more experience. They got a couple transfers that have came in so far as well, and the O line is also going to hold up. But their weapons may be a question mark because of injuries and because of just expect there to be some injuries coming into this game. I don't think A&M will be fully 100%. I don't want to spoil anything or give anything away, but from what I saw at practices, the guys seem a little banged up, and it's going to be some question marks. Can Anthony Howard come back full strength, 100%? What does Kendrick look like coming into this season? Is he going to be a starting tight end or not, or are they going to go a different direction? Who's going to be the number tight end two to say? And then also they might be without one of their strongest pieces. It's going to be difficult for those guys to try to evaluate both quarterbacks in these first two games, but it is the business. You don't have too much time to waste, and we know Coach Maynard isn't one to waste time at all. So
Hey, that's a fact, man. And one of the big keys this season, and it's going to be a big, I would say, target for whatever quarterback emerges throughout this race, and that's Abdul Fattah Ibrahim. Man, he has been, in my opinion, one of the best wide receivers, not in just the SWAC, but the FCS. Like when you list off the best SWAC wide receivers, it starts with Abdul, and then you can argue two through whatever number you want to go to. As an Alabama A&M guy, can you speak to what makes him special and what have you seen from a development standpoint that has allowed him to become one of the top wide receivers in the country and even received all American honors this preseason?
his footwork, his ability to go out there in his route and kind of have to modify it just a bit. Being able to just move on the fly and have that great connection with his quarterbacks the way he's had has been something. His work ethic. I think the first thing when I learned and met Abdul as a freshman was his work ethic, man. On the off days, he's working out alone in the weight room. When the team is off, he's out doing drills. And this is when he was just getting into his own. I remember earlier on, before the season even started, I just kept asking, who is that guy? Who is that guy? And it was during the fall camp. It was the fall camp of 19. I'm like, who is that guy? I just keep recording the 7-on-7s and the 1-on-1s with receivers and DBs. And this guy's cooking. He's not dropping the pass. And then it was two guys. It was Abdul Hilaire and it was Abdul Fattah Ibrahim, man. And he was special. From then on, I just knew he would be special. I think his story is one of the more special ones out of all the wide receivers in the SWAC as well, coming from being a walk-on to now doing what he's doing now. 1,000-yard receiver as a walk-on. And I've told people many times that have thought about transferring or did transfer here, Coach Maynard isn't one to, this Bulldog team as a whole, Coach Taylor isn't one to just say, oh, he's a walk-on, we're not going to use him. If you can play, you're going to play here for the Bulldogs. So, he's just a true testament to that. And I'm hopeful and I'm happy for where he is right now, but I expect bigger things coming soon. I expect bigger things this season too, despite him having a target on his back. I think he's going to get a lot of double teams at him this year. I think a lot of guys are going to play back a little more this year, and he'll definitely have a target on his back, and he won't be one that teams sleep on now more than ever. So he's gonna have some stepping up to do. He's gonna have a lot of eyes on him this year, and he's gonna have to take on that leadership role more than ever with this outlaw group in this wide receiver core.
And when people talk about the top NFL draft prospects coming out of the SWAC or just HBCU football in general, Abdul seems to kind of get forgotten in that conversation. How do
Mm-hmm.
you see him projecting to the next level, and what does he have to do to get his name in those conversations?
Well, I think it started earlier on with the Senior Bowl. I think that was a good start. I think he also needs to help out with the marketing. I think part of Akil's downfall in this draft was that I don't think that he was truly marketed well enough as a quarterback. We didn't see a little bit more of the character of who he was. We know that he's a hard worker. We know he can make all the passes, but we need to be able to see him marketed well as well. That goes into your draft stock as well. I think Abdul will need better marketing. I think it's happening now with this content group that they've created here at A&M. I think they're doing a good job so far, but I think Abdul really needs to work on this it's more of a speed thing. I think it'll be more of that. I think he has everything else, the catching ability. It'll be when he gets to that stage, what do you do? It's going to come down to those moments. It's going to come down to the Grambling game. It's going to come down to being in Mobile against Jackson State University. And when they need a first down and they call on your name, what do you do? It's going to come down to moments in St. Louis. You're on a neutral site, never played on that field before against a team like Pine Bluff, who's looking to come out and make some noise again this season, even though he had a kind of a tough season last year. You're going to need, it's going to be moments like that where scouts look at him and truly evaluate who he truly is. It's going to come to those moments, those winding moments, those tough moments where you guys got to gut it out. They need a first down or they need a big play. Can he make it despite the double team, despite being double covered, triple covered? They're just going to be looking for that. And they're also going to be looking for his speed as well.
I agree. I think he's an interesting prospect. Like you said, if he gets to Mobile and gets on that Senior Bowl roster, anything can happen. You've seen a lot of FCS guys. I
That's
mean,
right.
even last year, Christian Watson going down there, earning him a early second round draft grade by going down there and doing it against the best of the best. And I really
Mm-hmm.
do think Abdul has the talent where if he can just get there, get to the dance, everything will work itself out. Because like you said, he's a hard worker. He'll kill the interview process with all the teams that he interviews with. And I think he has the on the field ability to really shine there. And I think he would get a lot of talk if he goes down there and balls out. But the defense was a major flaw last season for Alabama A&M. They bring in I think the most transfers of all time of any team in
Mm-hmm.
history that has ever brought in one season. I mean,
They're
they
still
brought
bringing
in,
in people. I
yeah.
mean, I got to watch out myself. It might be, I might
Hmm.
have a new roommate for all I know. It might be a week from now and they're cutting people and they're bringing people in. You never know. It's like free agency out here. You're
Man, I
raining
mean,
transfers here in normal.
I think someone tweeted out a list. I think they brought in more DBs than some teams brought in total transfers this
Yeah.
offseason. So we're just going to say this, a completely retooled defense where you potentially could have 11 new starters and almost an entirely new two deep. What are the keys for you for this Alabama A&M defense taking a major step forward in 2022?
Well, first and foremost, they had a lot of blown coverages last year. We're going to be keeping an eye on that. I think Coach Boulware has done a great job of simplifying what Coach Eastman did last season and making it easier for these guys to pick up and learn quickly on the fly. I also believe it's going to start up front. I think a lot of the times the games that we lost, when you go back and watch film, they lost it up front. They lost the Jackson State game up front on both sides of the football. They lost the game against Grambling, and that's who truly exposed this team was up front. They lost it. They couldn't get to the quarterback, and nor could they protect the quarterback as well. So that's going to be something that's going to be something to keep an eye on, especially in this first game against UAB. It's going to be a real good test for both sides, but primarily on this defensive end. Can they get to the quarterback this year? Can they create a little bit of dysfunction back there in that backfield to get to the quarterback? That's going to be something that's going to be able to behold because they were one of the worst as far as getting to the quarterback and creating sacks and creating those hurries. So it's just going to be something to watch. I think the defensive backs in that backfield has done a great job. They've done a great job of restructuring those guys. They're a lot taller, they're a lot longer, and they look a lot more physical this year versus last year. I think last year they had a lot of undersized guys, and teams were able to throw that ball and get it over, and just hope their receivers were able to outman them, or they're beating them in height, and they were just able to get the ball over, as well as those blown coverages coming as well. So this year, I'm expecting them to be a lot better. They flew around all summer, and as of recent, when I got back and saw them recently in practice, they were flying to the ball. So that was a really good sign to watch as well. I'm really going to keep a good eye on those new DBs. They got a lot of incoming guys starting now. That's going to be something good to watch as well. They got a lot of height for those DBs, really physical.
Yeah, they did. I think they did a great job, especially at the top of the class, bringing in guys who have a lot of potential, man. And that goes at all three levels. And they brought in some guys that are proven transfers that have done it already on the field. And I think the linebacker spot's one that I'm looking for someone to step up at, because last year I felt like the linebacking spot was one of the real weaknesses, and everyone focused on the secondary and the defensive line, but the linebackers as well. Just I think there were some really bad showings in that group, man. And you brought in a guy from Stephen F. Austin who has proven it on the field. And I think the secondary too, like you said, the length for me is the biggest thing. You had to get some guys. When you look around the SWAC, the wide receiving cores are too talented. Grambling with Faison and bringing in some of those wide receivers. We know what Jackson State is. Even FAMU with Shareed and Xavier, they might not be the tallest or the biggest, but man, those guys can go out there and really play. And Texas Southern brought in some burners on the outside to add with Andrew Body. So I'm
And don't
extremely
sleep on
excited to
Bethune
see.
Cookman. Don't
Oh
sleep on
yeah,
Bethune
Kamari
Cookman. They
Everett.
still got one of the best tight ends in the SWAC, in my opinion. I think he might be the best tight end in the SWAC.
Yeah.
Can't sleep on them. Yeah.
And Corey Reed also transferred there, former four-star Jackson State wide receiver. But players to watch, man. If you can give me some just a handful on each side of the ball, who are you looking for as guys that we need to watch out for Alabama A&M in 2022?
I'm keeping my eye on Kyle Mann for sure on that defensive side of the ball. Really good guy, flying to the ball. Love what I saw to him out of practice as well. I will keep an eye on that left tackle, Carson Vincent. He did a really good job. Really big guy. He's like he's going to be there on that left tackle, holding it down for the offense as well. I will also keep my eye out on a new running back for A&M as well to help out with the carries there for Gary. I think Harold Jameson has a little bit of that Eddie Lacy to him, and that's going to be a nice 1-2 punch. That speed, but then you got that power, man. He was humongous. I'm like, man, he's going to be great in that red zone. He's going to be something to watch. And he can also catch coming out the backfield. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on, definitely this upcoming season.
Now, Carlos Becker is somebody that I'm super excited to see, man, because that's one of the guys you said, like he's 6'3", 6'4", runs like a 4.4, and has the ability to really make plays on the ball. And when you look at where he was coming into Florida State, man, he was one of the best corners in that recruiting class. And I just think at Florida State, things kind of didn't really work out for him there.
Out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he has an opportunity to really step up in the secondary and make a name for himself. And we've seen it happen with a lot of transfers already over this past season, that I think Becker's a guy for sure. I think DeGabriel Floyd at that linebacker spot, man, that's somebody that regardless of what fan base you're rooting for, is a guy who I think is going to be a major storyline. We know about the injury history, and really and truly, he's a guy I thought could live up to the hype if things would have just went a little bit different. And we've seen success happen. I know from me, personal experience, Jamel Dean, cornerback for Tampa Bay, got sent away from Ohio State due to a failed physical as well, transferred to Auburn and became a second-round pick. So we've seen this happen before, and I'm really, really rooting for him to overcome those medical issues and be able to shine. And I'm glad that you mentioned the running back room, because a lot of people, because for me, I think Quarles and Caleb Johnson are easily the two top running backs in the SWAC, but a lot of people point to Quarles' size as a major downfall. Right. And now that you have some versatility in how you can use backs in certain situations, it's really going to help the offensive line, like you said, in the red zone and short yardage, situations, to be a little bit more versatile in their play calling and their execution. And There's a transfer. I can't mention him. I don't think he's announced he's on campus yet, but there's a guy on the defensive line, not Kyle Mann, who was an all-conference player at his previous FCS school. Very excited for it, man. I'm ready for him to announce. I got told like 2 weeks ago he was on campus. I got the video ready, everything. I'm just waiting for my guy to
I
announce.
thought he
So
announced it. I thought he announced it. You sure he didn't
did
post
he?
a picture? 'Cause I'm not.
I don't think he
We'll
did.
have to check after this, but I thought he did. I
Oh no, we're
thought
gonna
he
check
might
it
have.
now because I have been dying to announce this guy
I think he
is
did.
if I might have missed it. I it's not on his Instagram.
It's not on his Instagram.
No,
I
unless we're
thought
talking
I
about
saw a
different
recent.
guys.
Let's see.
Yeah, nothing yet on social media, so we might be talking about different guys.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm. So we'll talk after the show about who I'm talking about, but he's a
Yeah.
guy who, yeah, he's a guy who I'm really excited for. We'll talk later, and guys, hopefully y'all will find out very soon. We'll see on Thursday. Maybe he's just a guy who just is on
Maybe.
campus, but I got it from a coach that he's on campus. I'm excited for him, but man, let's pull up the schedule because Jesus,
Oh
man,
boy,
this is
it's gonna
a
be rough.
brutal
It's
schedule.
gonna be
I
rough.
mean, just going through real quick, man. UAB, Troy, Austin P, FAMU, Bethune Cookman, and Grambling are your first 6 games. And that doesn't even include Jackson State, Texas Southern, and Alabama State in the back half, or Valley
Exactly.
in the back half, man. This schedule
Exactly.
is brutal. I mean, the toughest schedule in the SWAC, in my opinion, man. For you, I think you could just say the whole schedule, but we'll start with toughest games. What games are the toughest games in your opinion for Alabama A&M this season?
I think they have. I mean, how can you compete with guys like going up against North Carolina? But I think they have one of the tougher schedules in the SWAC as far as the non-conference goes, man. I mean, you look at UAB and what they've been able to do in the past couple of years since they've been back. It's been remarkable. You know, that's an awesome program, and I think it's a football program that they should be trying to look to and say we're not too far off on. It's a great measuring stick. I think Troy is great as well, even though they didn't. I mean, they have a couple of guys that have came in now, and they are looking to be a well-oiled machine as well this season. But Austin won't be too bad at home either. It's going to be a really good game. I think all Bulldog fans should be out for that home opener at Louis Cruz. Um, I mean, it's just like the entire schedule, like you said, is ridiculous. When you look at who they'll start their first SWAT game against, going to FAMU, renovated stadium, fan base is out of this planet. First time ever in the SWAC having to go down there, unfamiliar territory. The weather, it's ridiculous. It's also on their side as well. That's no easy feat. Then you come back, homecoming, you got Bethune Cookman. Were they undisciplined last year? For sure. Do I expect that to be the same case this year? No, I don't. So they're going to be a really difficult team as well at homecoming. Then you follow up homecoming with going to with Grambling and then Hugh Jackson. Now, am I the biggest Hugh Jackson fan growing up in Cleveland, Ohio? No, I'm not. But I still put them as a very tough team. They'll be formidable. They'll be no joke. So there's no one to bat an eye to as well. Magic City Classic should not be this easy this year. I think the past couple of years we've had their number. I think it'll be a little more difficult this year, but I think we'll still be able to get through them. Now, of course, November 12th, it should be circled as it should.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it. I think November 12th is going to be the meeting of the heads here in this division of this conference. I think it's going to come down to that game for sure. Both teams will be beaten, battered, and bruised by November 12th. Both teams have a great non-conference schedule, and they will have saw everyone by then. Jackson already seeing FAMU in this Orange Blossom, and then of course A&M will have saw them on the 24th. So those three teams right there are going to have to make every game count, and it's going to be like that for the entirety of their existence being in this division. Those three teams I always will expect to be at the top of this division because they're going to always beat each other down. You know, it's almost like the AFC West of the conference. You know, you got these three guys that you're like, man, oh man, like you got to see each other every game will count between those three teams. between Jackson, FAMU, and A&M. Those games will always have to count, and it's because the scheduling like this, man. I mean, this is what it's about here in the SWAC. Iron sharpening iron. So I would definitely have a couple of these games circled, but I'm gonna narrow it down to being September 17th and November 12th for sure. I think Magic City Classic is something that will be great. It's always a great the pageantry and everything that comes with it. But I think A&M will still have State's number after watching them against Howard, barely, trying to stay alive and stay awake for that one, how long that one went. But we'll save that for another time. I know you got a story for that. But we'll keep for sure September 17th, Louis Cruz Classic, September 24th, and then November 12th, because those two SWAC games will be very important for if the Bulldogs want to have a chance at making it to Atlanta come January.
Now that Magic City Classic could get interesting, as this might be the first time in 4 years they have the quarterback advantage, potentially. So
You might get a point.
yeah,
It's going to be
it
really
could get
difficult.
interesting.
It could get interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
like
think
it.
that's always been something that stood out. But to me, I think A&M's defense is going to be way better this year, and I think they're way faster to the ball. I think they'll be more physical than State will this year. I think that the defensive backs will definitely have a couple of names that will become household in the SWAC after this season. I think Carlos will hopefully be able to maintain his health and be a great asset to this team as well. So I think the defense will help them out a lot in this season and definitely during Magic City Classic.
Now, give me your top sleeper game on the schedule.
Whew. My top sleeper game. I want to keep my eyes like one thing I paid attention to the most at media day were the lack of coverage or the lack thereof of coverage with Bethune Cookman. And I was just looking at those guys' faces, and I was looking at the coach face, and I was looking at just that everybody that came with them that were in those BC shirts. Man, they looked like they were so motivated, like they were ready to go today. And I was like, oh wow, like this is not going to be the same come next SWAC Media Day, because you could tell in certain people's faces, like when you feel that disrespect, when you feel that people are sleeping on you. I think Bethune Cookman or Pine Bluff will be a very tough game. I think those are games that we can't sleep on. That the Bulldogs will say, "Oh, well, that's just Bethune Cookman or that's Pine Bluff," and they'll be in for it. And I think that happened last year during that tough game at Bethune Cookman in Daytona, where the guys ended up being in a dogfight. I think almost came down to a go-ahead touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't, I mean, it was a very
Yeah,
close
it was
game.
like
It
30
gave
to
away 40
27.
points. Yeah, yeah, they nearly. I think they almost did. They almost give up 40 points against them too, or was that just Tuskegee? I think they
No, because
nearly. I think they gave up
it was
40 points to Tuskegee, but this was
yeah.
also a closer game as well. This was a game that was supposed to be a blowout, and after a couple drives, it started getting stagnant in that second half, and they finally got things to go again. But I'm telling you, this team, right, this Bethune Cookman team, if they can keep the penalties down, good luck, man. Good luck. They were a really good team last year. Really
They
good
are.
team. I was really impressed.
I like Bethune Cookman as that pick, man. I think Bethune Cookman is going to shock a lot of people.
I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
really and truly, especially, and I've already gave my bold prediction that I think Walter Simmons may be secretly the guy over there at the
Mm,
quarterback spot. Him and Jones I think are going to be neck and neck. I think they both got great talent. But man, Walter Simmons, I would not sleep on him. And then with Corey Reed and Kamari Everett, and then that secondary, man, completely reloaded. They brought in some
I'm telling
studs,
you.
and they're returning their top three players from last year's secondary. And I agree, because after that 4 game stretch, everyone thinks that you can let off a collective deep breath for Alabama
Mm-hmm.
A&M, but I don't know if that's the case really and truly. And looking at those first 4 games, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with FAMU, but we're assuming that most of the guys will hopefully be eligible by the end of September, because I'm
Right.
hoping with the
We're
SWAC
hoping.
going there that they kind of work that out. For you, what
And
is
I
the
just want to say this first before we even get started on the question. I don't want to
yeah.
interrupt you here, but they got to get that together. If this is what we as a conference are trying to hold ourselves to a higher standard, we got to get this together. You can't be out here having a good time and celebrating. Oh, look at our homecomings and look at all this and look at that. But what about what's going on with their personnel? It's all good and fun and games when you have all of these things going on about HBCUs, but we never want to address what goes wrong at HBCUs. And stuff like this always happens, but we don't put an eye to it like things like when unless situations like this come up. And that was a real misfortune. That was a real misfortune of going up against UNC not full strength. That's sickening, man. And they just need to take care of that immediately. We shouldn't have too many of those situations still going on in the SWAC. That was embarrassing.
I echo it, man. I talked about it on the live stream last night, but hopefully, I've got some word that some of the players are coming back. I think there's a few guys that probably still won't be back in the OVC, which is disappointing. But man, I really hope they get that figured out. But the first four games, man, I said they were one of the toughest first four game stretches for anybody in the SWAC. Looking at it, how do you feel about that? What's the best? How do you one? What's the realistic prediction for those first four games? And two, what's the best case scenario?
Well, given where this team stands right now, as far as health wise on the offensive side of the ball, I'm expecting Gary Corns to take a lot of carries. Let's just say that. I think that September 1st will be a tall task for this team. I think it'll be difficult. I think the defense can hold up, but can only hold up so much. The offense is going to have to help. The offense is going to have to show up. Whoever is, and we'll get the starting quarterback announced soon, but I believe Quincy's going to have to show up, man. This is it. This is it. This is what you've been looking for since the moment you've transferred here. Aquil is gone. Number 4 is not coming back through the doors, at least not in that same complexion at that same height with that arm strength. No. And this is your time to shine. You got to do it. The lights are on. No one else is playing on Thursday. Here you are. What are you going to do? This is the game that we're going to see as a measuring stick for this team. I think right now where they stand, as well as helping the weapons that they have, this is going to be a tall task for them September 1st. It's going to be a tall task September 17th. And then going to Tallahassee won't be an easy feat as well. I think in these first 3 to 4 games, the Bulldogs' best case scenario would be 2-2 for sure. I think 3-1 just doesn't seem realistic, but it would be nice to keep optimistic and think that they can go 4-0. But I think we need to keep a reality check here that UAB is a really strong team, a really great program, and despite them changing coaches, things obviously look like they haven't changed much at all. So I think right now I would say that they lose a tough one in Birmingham. I think September 10th they may be able to bounce back, but on the road again, that's a little tough. I think that might be a tough loss as well. But I also think there is a chance for them to upset. I know Troy brung in a couple of guys, and they are some studs, trust and believe. But I think that there is a chance that A&M might be able to come up with an upset. I also think that Austin won't be an easy feat as well at home. A lot of things go on at home, and this will be some of these guys' first home game here in Normal on the Hill. You won't have a lot of experienced guys there, especially on the defense side of the ball. How can they come up big at home under the lights for the first time? A lot of emotions going. I remember last year there was a lot of emotions during a big game. I won't say the game, but or the player, but in this story, but there was a player, man, selling T-shirts, running through the parking lot during this biggest game of the year for this team. And I'm like, oh man, you know where his head is at. You know, that's not a good sign when one of your players is out here worried about T-shirts and NILs before the game gets started. That was just a tough sign. It told me right then and there his mind wasn't where it needed to be at. And I'm hoping that these guys are going to be locked in and focused come Louis Cruz Classic. And I think that they'll be able to maybe toughen it out and get the win on the road as well in Tallahassee as they definitely owe that team a butt whooping. I think last year shouldn't have been close. I think it should have been a blowout. And somehow, somebody let their foot off the gas, and that defense just could not give them a break, and they caused some tough plays down on that stretch. And unfortunately enough for the Rattlers, they were able to come out with the comeback victory. But I don't see that happening this time. I think A&M and Coach Maynard have had that game on their mind for a long time, and I'm expecting a big win in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a great 4-game stretch if you're 2-2 and you competed well in the first 2 games. UAB, yes, Bill Clark is probably going to be one, was a huge loss,
Right.
but all that talent stayed. They didn't lose much to the transfer portal. So I still think that team's going to be loaded. It's probably going to be a 50-50 crowd in Birmingham.
Oh
Honestly,
yeah.
I think
Oh
Alabama
yeah.
A&M fans are going to show out. That stadium is going to be packed. So I expect them to compete early. I just think the depth is going to catch up to them. Now, Troy, I
Yeah.
wasn't super high on him coming into the season, but Landon Doji at quarterback is a game changer. This is a guy that has
Trying to
like
tell you.
almost 10,000 yards passing. What was dominant at West Virginia through the air, and
I mean, a stud. Yeah.
yeah, so A&M is going to have to put up some points to go upset Troy, and that team hasn't performed super well over the past few years, but that was a team that beat Southern like 59-0 or something like that last year. I mean, they went in there and just drugged them. And so I don't know if that's going to be as easy.
Ragdoll. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be. A lot of people are just kind of marking those as easy upsets on social media and things like that. Those games are going to be tough to win. Now,
Very.
Austin Peay's an interesting one. That's a team that I didn't put a lot of stock in. I thought Western Kentucky was going to run through them. They lose
Mhm.
their top 3 defensive backs, new quarterback. I mean, they had some holes in that team, new defensive line, and they went out there and had a chance to win that game with like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And if it went for a pick six in the first half, they probably win that game. Or it's a 3-point game or something like that. Now the secondary will be tested, man. Dre McCray
Mhm.
is no joke at the wide receiver spot, man. Had 2 touchdowns this weekend against Western Kentucky. The new quarterback looked good, and their running back Josh Samuel was a transfer from Jacksonville State, multiple time all conference player. And he is a workhorse, man. That dude can run the football between the tackles. And so it's going to be a great FCS test for this defense and this new revamped offense. Now, FAMU, I'm interested. It's hard to win in Bragg, but we don't know what that team's going to look like when it
Very.
comes to September 24th. So I'm interested.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that matchup. Now, your predictions, man. Give me your
Whew.
record prediction for Alabama A&M this season.
Boy, oh boy. I'm expecting them to have a winning season. I expect a winning record this year for sure. I think where they sit situationally right now, they still have a great opportunity to make their way to the SWAC championship, but anything can happen from there. I think one those games, like I said, it's going to come down to those FAMU games. It's going to come down to Magic City Classic. It's going to come down to Jackson State University. That's why those games like those are circled for a reason when you ask that, because those games will be so pivotal in this season as it was last season. I think the game against Grambling might be one of my more slept on ones. I might have to change my answer now when you look back at it, because that Grambling game was the game that pivoted the season last year. So
Yep.
those games in this conference are going to be very key for this team. I think right now where they stand, they'll definitely have a winning record. I think they'll stand more than likely at about 7-3, 6-4 at the worst. If they are 6-4, that's a bad season for them. I think we'll most likely stand at 7-3, or I'm sorry, three.
You got 11 games.
Yeah, you got
11
11
games.
games. So we should go 8-3. Excuse me. Sorry on that one. Used to 10, now we're at 11. Great for the Bulldogs. Let's go. I'm going for 8-3. If it's
I
if
like
it's
it.
7-4, 7-5, that's a bad sign. After you've had this many signings, there's no excuses on that defensive side of the ball this year. So I'm expecting them to have a good record, 8-3, good season for them, really solid. I think who they lose to will be the key, though. Who they lose to will be the key. I think if it's UAB and it's Austin, or if it's the first 3 games of the year, then you'll be perfectly fine because those games won't necessarily go on your balance when it comes to the SWAC. You'll still have a chance to win it all, to win that division in the SWAC because none of those games truly factor in for that. So I think they'll have a chance. I think there'll be some pivotal games. I think there'll be some adversity for this team for sure. No doubt about that. I think it's going to come at their doorstep if it hasn't already for September 1st. Losing one of their top weapons. I'm not going to put a name out there. That's not for me to name drop yet. It's not for me to announce, but I will make sure that this podcast knows first that there is a tough weapon, one of their biggest weapons, injured, out, and it might not just be for September 1st. And that's a big loss for this team. So I expect this team to come out swinging. It's going to come down to can the offense put the points on the board like they have normally done in the past. New faces, but however, the question will remain now. This question will be bigger than ever. Can they put points on the board? Can the defense get big stops versus last year? Can they get to the quarterback? Are these DBs as proven as they say they are? To the wide receiver core, the Outlaws. This is looking like it's the last dance for most of them. It's looking like it's the last dance for most of them. Jenkins, Gardner, um, Johnson, Howard. List goes on and on. Abdul. It's looking like the last dance for these guys. How are they planning on going out? Gary. It's looking like it's going to be the last dance for most of these guys. How do they want to be remembered? This is the legacy year for those weapons now. All the talk has been we're the best group in the SWAC. We're the best wide receiver group in the SWAC. There's been a lot of talk about other teams as well. And we saw a lot of back and forth in the past couple seasons on social media. Well, this is the year. This is the year now, more than ever. I mean, it was fun while Quill was here. It was great. They're going to miss him more than ever this year sometimes. And everybody will recognize that, of course. But this is the year more than ever that group has to come together and be a focal and just be the focal point that they know they are for this offense. There are going to be some times where Abdul is going to be double cover. Who's going to step up? There's a couple of transfers that are some big names on that wide receiving core as well. Who's going to step up for them? Because, there's a lot of players on this team right now that are trying to make a name, that are still fighting and vying for positions in these battles here. It's going to be something to watch. I'm expecting some things to shake for this Bulldog program. I'm expecting some big things from some of these players, but it's going to come down to that more than ever if they're going to have a good or bad year. Those questions are going to remain there all season long.
Yeah, I don't mind 8-3. I think that would be like my ceiling for them if everything went right. It'll probably be about 8-3. I'll probably ride with 7-4 here. I think the first two games are probably losses. Right now, I would lean Jackson State in that Mobile game, and then I think the two big games that you're going to have to win, one of them is Austin Peay FAMU. You cannot leave September with two back-to-back losses in those games. If they lose to Austin Peay and FAMU, man, the long-term, I would say, projection of this team really, really suffers, in my opinion. You have to win one of those two games, and that home opener is so important because if you go to Bragg 0-3, I don't know what I mean. That would be
That's
a desperate situation. Yeah,
Very
it would be a desperate situation, man. But it's gonna be a big season, man, for Alabama A&M. But man, I appreciate you coming on the show. I know we've been having this in the works.
I appreciate you for having me, man.
For sure. We've had this in the works for a little bit, man. My guy, had to go to LA on us, so he had to get his he had to go get his stuff done over there, man.
Please.
But you can expect to see him on the show throughout the season, man. But plug your social media, let them know where they can find all your content, man. Just let them know what you got coming this season.
Man, oh man, we got some great things coming this season. Keep an eye out for me as well. My handle is also there for Instagram at Chauncey D Sanders, as well as Chauncey Sanders, no middle initial for D or in Dion, in my Twitter handle as well. Looking forward to having a great season, and man, I appreciate you for having me, man. I've always been a fan of the show, and just watching the progress from day one has been amazing, and just being a part of it and being a part of your legacy now is going to be something that I really appreciate.
Hey man, I definitely appreciate that. But
For sure.
guys, you already know you can keep up with Alabama A&M with my guy Chauncey. You can keep up with it here. Got some things in the works. I might be there on the 17th for that Austin P Alabama A&M game. But
You
if
let me
not,
know. You let
I
me
got
know.
you. I got
Okay.
you. I'll let you know. But I will be in Mobile. That's where I'm recording right now. That's my hometown. You can bet
Listen,
I'm going to be in Mobile,
Mobile is gonna be
Alabama for
something
that
fun.
game
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you for some good
for
food
sure.
options for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Mobile
got
is
you.
gonna be
Hey,
it's gonna be fun. That's gonna
I
be a fun game. I don't
I
care
got
if both
Scotty.
teams have
Everyone.
losing records. Oh, Scotty's gonna be there.
Oh yeah, everyone's
Oh
coming down for
boy,
that
you
game. You
you
already
better
know
make
how it
sure
is.
that you gotta call Mobile PD then. We can't have this, man. I ain't trying to be on the first 48. I mean, I don't know if it's in Mobile. I know it's in Birmingham, but listen, now that I know that Scotty is going to be there, I'm make sure that I want all the Jackson State fans to know that I am a Sanders as well. Please, just let me know. I'm like the fourth, fifth cousin, but listen,
Okay.
but hear me out, man. If I got to come in there with a bulletproof vest coming in there with Scotty, man. You gotta keep
No,
up, man. Listen,
hey, you got the Coach Prime cosign, man. You're good. They saw the post. You're good. You got the cosign. No danger for you at all, man. Listen. Me and
oh,
Mr. Campbell are working to make sure Scotty's eligible to drive on I-10. We're going to make sure that he can get to Lad People Stadium, man. Don't worry. But guys, for Chauncey, for myself, for the Blue Bloods, man, we are out for right now.